What's up, everybody? This is Gary Holt from Exodus and formerly from Slayer, and you're listening to The Razor's Edge.
Welcome to the Razor's Edge build-up for UK Slamfest, and today we have with us one of the great minds behind the festival, Joe Mortimer. Joe, how are you?
Absolutely fantastic, thank you. The weather's just about cleared up after an abysmal few days, but back to normal for this time of year. So otherwise, all good, thank you.
Excellent. So we've had 11 months for the dust to settle on the last edition of Slamfest. How was last year for you, and where do you rank the event in Slamfests of all time?
Last year was fantastic. It was really, it's nice to see. Somebody described it as a glow up for us, to coin that phrase, to kind of to really showcase how the festival's kind of developing for us, where it's came from. Starting off in Temple of Boom in Leeds in 2015 and developing now up to the Breadshed in Manchester. So it's nice to see how it's developed and how it's really kind of starting to take on a little bit of its a life of its own. It's becoming a well-known kind of brand and everything. So it's in terms of how I'd rank it, it's kind of difficult because the first one's going to always have a place in my heart, but then there's other ones where we've had big exclusives or some which have sold out when some others haven't. So it's difficult to say, but it's just nice to see it progress. It's like seeing your kid grow up, really. So you can't really say what point in their life was the best, although I'm sure that there's something that you could probably say were the worst.
And this year marks the 10th anniversary. Did you ever think you'd get this far down the road when you started it?
Absolutely not. There's definitely been moments that we thought, should we keep on going? But we always get pulled back again. So, and just to kind of expand on it, it's our 10th anniversary, but it's 10 years, not 10 editions, just because of the big COVID pandemic. So we started in 2015, 2019, we decided to have a little bit of a break just to refresh. Then 2020, we had an event booked, but then, everything went into lockdown, and it was a couple of years before we came back, as I'm sure it was for pretty much everything else in the world during that time. So it is 10 years, maybe not 10 editions, but we're still worthy of celebration, I believe.
Absolutely. And just talking about that COVID year and it getting cancelled, how much of an impact did that having to cancel it have on you?
It just set things back. It was just a little bit. So the cancellation of that was not too much of a big deal. We weren't at the point where there'd been any expenditure, so it's not as though we lost any money. There's a few bands that we had booked who are no longer active, which means sadly we've kind of lost an opportunity there. And then with other things which happened around the time, such as Brexit happening, it's made brought a lot more difficulties for bringing bands into the country as well. So there's a bit of a kind of double whammy there. But and then having a couple of years out, it was kind of difficult to get things moving again. But luckily, along with UK Slamfest itself, I also run UKSF events. So I do other shows in Liverpool, Manchester, Leeds, and around the country, some other tour dates and stuff, to try and keep the brand ticking along as well. So the festival didn't stagnate while I was still doing other shows. I did a short tour with Party Cannon, Crepitation, and Twitch of the Death Nerve, which I think it was the first show. It was at least the first show in Manchester after the restrictions were lifted. So all the shows that we played, everybody came out in force to enjoy. So we were able to keep on things ticking along, so it wasn't too much of an impact really.
Excellent. So how soon after last year did you start planning for Slamfest 2025?
Probably about 6 months before, rather than afterwards. We'd started making. Initially, we had Waking the Cadaver, but we're booked to headline, and we'd been in discussion with them for quite a while beforehand anyway. So discussions were underway. Kind of soft offers had started going out with bands to say, would you be available and stuff. But generally, as a rule of thumb, we don't start making strong plans for the following year until after. Normally leading up to Christmas or just afterwards, but definitely we don't make any kind of commitments until after the event, because we use the budget for the following year is set by the success of the present year. So that way we don't blow our budget. That's my missus' job, is to keep me in check when it comes to the finances for the festival.
Yeah.
She tells me how much is too much.
Yeah, and you're not spending money you haven't got at that point, are you? So yeah,
Precisely. It's very easy to get carried away. When bands are coming in with offers, and you're like, "Oh, that'd be fantastic. That'd be great." And I'm saying, "Yeah, but we've got to weigh it up a little bit." It's very easy to be like, "Yeah, we can get anybody we want," but in reality, probably not.
And when you're booking bands, do you have in the back of your mind, "Oh, I need to make next year bigger than this year"? And are you always looking to improve the lineup?
Yes and no. I think there's always a bit of pressure to build up, but I don't think we, as a festival, I don't think we try to put pressure on ourselves to do that, because eventually you'll hit a roadblock, you'll hit a bit of a wall or a bit of a ceiling where you have to then start taking more risks to try and step it up again. Like like many festivals, been chasing the likes of Devourment to headline. If we were ever able to pull that off, it's like, well, where do we go then? We can't start trying to reach out and get Suffocation or Dying Fetus to come and headline a festival, because it's a big jump.
Yeah.
So we rather than grow in size, we just want to grow in profile.
Yeah.
And we want to keep on with the trajectory that we've had, which has been positive so far, but also keep on giving the opportunities to UK debuts, UK exclusives, reform sets, album sets, stuff like that. And then if the festival was to maintain its attendance for years to come, would carry on, because we love doing it. We love giving that opportunity to. For example, we've just booked a band called Spinal Fluid, a new band of young'uns from the northwest Liverpool, Manchester ways, for their first ever show. To replace a band who sadly pulled out, Gormonger. So they're playing Slamfest. So we're giving bands opportunities to do stuff which they may not have ever done before, or may not even get the opportunity with again. So that's part of the reason why we keep on going. If it grows, great. If it doesn't grow but it maintains, great. If it starts to shrink, then that's when we might have to start having second thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. So this year you've got two big US bands on UK exclusives to headline, Malignancy and Gorgasm. So
yeah, that's right.
First of all, how hard is it to land big US acts and then to get them over on exclusives?
It's difficult. There's so many different kind of circumstances that you've got to consider, like logistics, transport, travel, fees, and kind of return of investment. If you want to kind of coin a business term, we need to make sure that it's worthwhile. We wouldn't just necessarily do it for any band just to say that we're going an American band on, but both Gorgasm and Malignancy have been super easy to work with. Gorgasm are quite spread out themselves, with members being in Chicago, Houston, and in Vancouver in Canada. So that took a little bit more working out. Malignancy are all flying from New York, so it makes that a little bit more easy. There's plenty of occasions where we've had international bands and American bands booked, but there's always the logistics. And if you are discussing exclusives and stuff like that, then it tends to come at an increased price, because you're covering all of the costs rather than covering a tour date, which may be a lower overhead. So you're talking about guarantees as well as kind of flights and stuff, but it's all to be kind of discussed. So it just takes a lot more work. But in terms of landing it, I don't think you necessarily have to convince them to make it an exclusive. I know that with Waking the Cadaver, we were having a conversation about some additional shows on the mainland to make the trip more worthwhile. Which makes sense. When you're traveling thousands of miles, then you don't always want to go over there, play a show, and come back the next day, like you might do if my own band traveling to Germany, for example. It's a bit of a different thing traveling over to the States, so it's not too difficult as such. But I imagine if it was bigger, the higher end of things, the likes of bands that like Damnation may pull. I imagine there may be, and there's agents involved and stuff like that. There might be a lot more to consider at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So and I can't imagine you've got the budget on the scale of the likes of Damnation and things like that. So And obviously, UK exclusives don't come cheap, as you just mentioned. So, how much percentage wise of your budget do you put aside for booking things like big names or fly-ins and things like that?
We don't necessarily put in a percentage of finances aside for it. We kind of start when we're booking bands. We start from the top down.
Mm.
So each year, Lisa, my partner, will give me my budget. She'll be like, "This is how much you've got to play to book bands," and I'll be like, "Okay." So I'll start reaching out to headliners or potential headliners to say, how much would it be? Okay, well, if I was to pay that amount of money for flights, accommodation, what guarantees, whatever the outgoings would be, what would that leave me for the rest of the lineup? And can I actually build a lineup or wear the lineup with that amount of money? And if it's beyond what it would be, like if a band was to ask us for £10,000, it'd be like, we could do it, couldn't pay anybody else. So it then have an impact on the kind of level of band. So I have to balance it a little bit in that respect. So it's building it from the top down, starting with the headliner bands, and luckily a lot of the team are also a lot of the UK Slamfest team are also in bands as well. So I know I can always rely on them to jump on if I need to help out.
And yourself, you're in plenty of bands as it is, aren't you? So you can always drag yourself on.
All right, we've got no budget left, so I'll play.
As you pull the lineup together, do you have a wish list of bands? Like, as you go into it every year, do you have a wish list of, I want to try and get these? And if you don't book them, you rolls over to next year and you try and book them again. Have you got that list?
Yeah, I've got a list on my phone. It's like a little black book of numbers. It's just like, right, let's see who we work through. I've got a list of bands that I try year after year, and sometimes it doesn't work. Like the aforementioned Devourment. Yeah, I'm sure I'll snag them one day. Just gotta get Dave Spencer to agree. if you watch this, Dave, I'll be in your inbox soon enough. But yeah, any bands I've made offers to before, but they weren't available, I kind of keep them on the reserve. But I've also got quite a hefty submissions list as well. I think I had one the other day I checked, and I think I've got 149 bands who've applied to play. International bands of varying genres, but I will consider them all. So I kind of like I'll have a look through that as well. So it was actually Gorgasm put themselves forward to play, and because I know the guys personally anyway, I was able to just message them and be like, I saw the email, yes, let's see if we can make this work. So I was able to kind of follow up on that, making those contacts through those ways. So yeah, it's a bit of both. There's a bit of a list of I'd love them to play, and a list of bands who submitted, and I'll find appropriate bands and give the best opportunities I can.
Yeah, and it certainly says something for your brand, the UK Slamfest brand, that you've got 140 bands asking you to play rather than you having to approach them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a with the UKSF Slam and Sundays that I've set up, which is a free event every other month in Manchester. I'm going through that list to give some of the perhaps smaller, newer bands a bit of a platform where I might not be able to offer them something for Slamfest at that time, because obviously we've got limited slots at the festival. I think there's 15 slots over the weekend. There may be more opportunities throughout the year. So I can offer those bands who've submitted through that form to me as well. So I can give them more. So while I'm doing 15 bands for UK Slamfest, I'm also offering 3 slots every other month in Manchester as well.
Yeah, and it's good. And it's good to grow them as bands, get them out to an audience to be at the point where in future years you'll book them as higher up on a Slamfest lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a bit of a platform, a bit of a stepping stone. Bands who play, and I go, they were really good, they deserve the next one. I'll be like, right, next year, do you want to play the main one? So it's kind of like a nice kind of introduction, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. So if money was no object, what would be your absolute dream lineup for Slamfest?
It's a difficult one, because I need to kind of remove my own personal taste bias, but I'd love to book Cephalic Carnage, because they're one of my favourites and have been for a very long time. I think they go down really well, but I think they may be a tad out of budget. I'd love to have Misery Index. I've toured with them in the past. Really good friends, really good guys. I'd love to be able to get those. I know Adam also plays in Pig Destroyer, which would be nice. It kind of deviates away from a bit of the main kind of focus, which is that kind of brutal death slam type of thing. Returning through to the likes of Devourment. I'd love to get Condemned, Mortal Decay. I'm getting way out of my budget with this. If I could get all of them, it'd be fantastic. We did previously have Abysmal Torment and Cranium booked on the event that got cancelled. It'd be nice to be able to try and bring them back over. I know Cranium's been back over since. I don't believe Abysmal Torment has. Yeah. And if money was no object, I'm sure there's a few bands I'd like to try and coax out of retirement, just to see how much I could give them a blank check and be like, just do the fest, will you?
I'm sure they would. So for this year's event, you've brought Slam Worldwide on board to help on the promotion side. What difference have they made?
So I've worked a lot with Joseph Carabas from Slam Worldwide over the years with my own bands and stuff. He came out to see Crepitation in 2017 when we played in New York, and so it was nice to meet him there. And he is a one-man promoting engine, absolute machine. So he reshares any of our posts, and he accepts any collaboration requests on Instagram, for example, which just improves our reach, gets us out to a huge audience, which massively helps because as with all will in the world, we don't have the budget or the time as fully grown adults, mostly with kids, to really hammer the machine, beat the algorithms and stuff like that. And generally speaking, the festival circuit is very busy. In Manchester, there's also Awful Fest. Previously, there's been Flesh Fest, and there's a number of big events going on. So not that it's a competition, but in a way, we do have to consider that there are people who with limited money, so they do need to kind of pick and choose. And so getting the additional reach and getting the push from Slam Worldwide and Joseph is really helpful.
Yeah. And you mentioned those festivals, and I think Grind After Death Fest as well, and you're not far off Damnation. Yeah. There's a slight crossover with Damnation, I think, but not a massive one. But obviously
damn them for getting Brodequin. I wanted Brodequin for years.
Yeah, obviously Damnation's a pricier event than yourselves, and how much with the people's budgets being so tight, does Damnation and it being so close to yourselves eat into the amount of tickets you sell, do you think?
Possibly. I think there's enough. Damnation's got a very wide net with the genres they cover. So I think that they probably do to an extent. It's a much bigger event. The BEC Arena is huge. I was lucky enough to play with Crepitation a few years ago. And I had a fantastic time, but like the size of it blew my mind. But I've not attended as a punter in a new venue before. I don't know what the financial element of it is. But I do think that there'll be some people who, for example, might be like, no, I want to save my money and go and queue up for Brodequin and get all of their merch. So there's every possibility. And the work that Damnation put in, they've got such a loyal fan base since day one. I was the very first one in Jilly's Rock World in the music box back in the day. And to see it to develop to the size it is unreal. The work that Gav and the team put in is just amazing. So I don't see it as competition. I imagine there probably a couple of people going like, I can't budget to go to both events over we're in like consecutive months. So there may be a bit, but I don't think it's a huge impact to our ticket sales. I think we are focused on our kind of the extreme metal end enough that people into that genre are just as likely to go to both. Rather than just the one.
Yeah, fair enough. So looking back over 10 years of the event, would you do anything differently if you had the chance?
Ooh, I have to be careful what I say here. There's definitely a couple of bands that I'd probably not work with again. But I won't mention any names because I'll get my inbox will blow up for sure. But I don't think so. We've took it slow. We've grown naturally. Some years have done better than others. And every year we learn a little bit more. So, if I could go back and do year one with the experience over the last 10 years, there'd probably not much that I would change. Just having a better understanding in the earlier days of the financial thing, having a team that we've got now. If I could take the team that we've got now of everybody who helps to get involved in the first year, then things would have been much easier. There was a couple of occasions, a couple of years where we just didn't really know what we were doing, and we weren't really communicating that well with each other. So everybody was running around and trying to find everybody, and nobody knew what was going on. But now it's a lot more solid and fluid, and people are on board, and people do really get involved and really help out, and the team's really strong. So the only thing I would change is if I was able to do it again with the team I've got now, then I'd look to that opportunity. But that being said, I don't regret anything. It was just part of the learning curve.
Excellent. So what has been your highlights over a decade of brutality?
Bringing Cephala Tripsy over for their UK debut. Probably they're one of the bigger names in slam, in brutal death metal. They'd never played the UK before. It'd been quite a while since they played in Europe. So their first time in the UK was quite a big deal, and they went down a storm as well. We did have an epicardiectomy on their first. I think it was their first 2 shows in the UK ever. They headlined the first year, 2015, and they also headlined in 2022 with Grutalax. So last year, Disavowed, one of the headliners, absolutely blew my mind. I've been a fan of them for a long time, so I had a bit of a fanboy moment watching them, getting a bit gushy. So yeah, it's just, I think, it's hard to say. We've given so many opportunities to bands to play in the UK for the first time, or play an exclusive set, or bring them back after a long time. We always try and have a big focus on that. Personally, the last ever show that I played with my band Roma in 2018 was at UK Slamfest, and that was kind of our first farewell show. So that was kind of special as well. And then this year, I'm looking forward to playing, because I'm hosting it and playing with Crepitation, and we're playing our debut album for a 10-year anniversary also. So that's probably something which is going to be a bit of a special moment for me as well.
Excellent. So before we go, do you want to give everyone, or do you want to let everyone know where they can find Slamfest, buy tickets, all that sort of stuff?
So our tickets are on sale exclusively through Skiddle. So you can find that if you search, if you Google UK Slamfest Skiddle, the tickets will come straight up away. There are day tickets available, weekend tickets available. They will be taken offline a couple of days before, but you can still buy them on the door, but they will be at an increased price. Yeah. We are as many places as we can be online, Facebook and Instagram under UKSF events, or the event page itself is UK Slamfest 2025. We do have a TikTok that you can follow us on, although it's not had as much posting on there because I feel ancient when I go on that app. But we are on there nonetheless. And then there's a lot of our previous years' information which is available on the likes of YouTube as well. So yeah, give us a Google and you'll find plenty.
Fantastic. Joe, it's been a pleasure talking to you this evening. And I wish you all the best in Slamfest this year.
Thank you very much. I'll see you soon, mate. Take care.
For listening. Make sure you keep up to date with all of our interviews by subscribing to our channel. For all the latest news, reviews, interviews and more, head over to our website www.therazorsedge.rocks.